Hello and good evening to you. Thank you for showing up for the webinar. And we've got a new subject going on today, SOC2 trust principles. So again, I appreciate it. This is our 15th webinar, and it's been a long journey, been more than a year now. And we have stuck to our promise of one webinar every month at least. So we are delivering on that. And thank you for all the wonderful emails and words of encouragement that we keep on receiving. And of course, so many new contacts that we have established. Thank you for being there, and it's an impressive turnout today. Again, thank you very much. I think soon we'll be reaching the limit of what is allowed as attendees, number of attendees by GoToWebinar. So no worries, we can always upgrade the package that we have taken. So again, I appreciate the encouragement and taking the time to be there. I'll try my best to make it worth your while. All right, so starting up, so we're starting up with SOC2 trust principles. To just give you a brief background, like we do SOC2, like we've been doing this for like a couple of years now, and one of the most contentious topic is, what trust principles are applicable where, and how is it derived at. So, almost every second day we have a discussion with our clients, and the only point that is discussed in SOC2 would be the trust principles. So we thought, let us have a webinar. So the next time a client asks us such questions, you can simply send him a recording of the webinar and save us some time. Okay, so one thing before we start, I always appreciate your questions. So drop in your questions from the GoToWebinar, and it will be wonderful to reply. I'll reply it immediately as much as possible, and if not, then I'll take it up at the end of it. So let's go ahead. Okay, just to put a face on the voice, I'm sure like many of you already know me. So for those of you don't, this is me, Narendra Sahu, and I've got my own company, VISTA InfoSec, and we've been there like 14 years now in InfoSec services. And for me, I've been in this industry for like almost 25 years now, and I've done a few certifications. I've worked for many companies. Anyway, let's move ahead. What are we going to cover today? Very brief background of SOC2. Like, I'm sure that many of you have already attended my previous session on SOC2. So this is, so I won't be getting into the details of what is SOC2 and how it works and stuff. So we'll still touch upon it. Then I'll get into the trust principles, all of them, details of it. Then I'll do a walkthrough of the control framework. This will be something new and interesting. And again, timelines and audits, frameworks, and all we'll look into, and we'll wrap up. But again, as I said, your questions are always welcome. Your ideas for new webinars is always helpful. So let's go ahead. A brief overview. Again, brief would mean like 3 slides. So don't expect much from an overview. SOC2, again, it's for engagements to report on controls at service organizations. So it is basically only for service organizations providing services in IT to other companies. It is being floated by the AICPA, American Institute for Certified Public Accountants, and it's so it has to be done by certified and practicing CPAs. So there are a few trust principles under like almost you can say the domains of security which is covered under SOC2, and the online website of AICPA is extremely helpful, and I really mean it when I say that. And what can happen is you can get a ton of information even over there. And these are the 5 trust principles. That is security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. Don't worry, today's session is only about this 5, so I'll just jump ahead, but we'll be getting into each of that in detail. So going ahead, cloud-based services. So who's covered under it? So again, who gets covered? This becomes like a question. Dozens of con calls that we have with potential clients where the basic question is who is covered under it. So anybody who is providing IT services to clients based in the US. So you can say that it is covered under SOC2. So cloud-based services, whether it is software as a service, SaaS or PaaS, that is platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service, IaaS, or there are so many other variants of cloud services. So cloud service providers by default are covered under it. There will be HR, people companies providing HR services, security services, email, collaboration, communication, even cloud ERP services, cloud ERM, CRM services, all those things get covered. So wherever you are providing services to clients using information technology, that gets covered under it. So even data center co-location, even if you're providing this IT systems management, it gets covered under it. So in short, any service where customers' primary concern is security, availability, and or privacy gets covered under SOC 2. So that is it. So okay, you might say that okay, I'm providing some fringe services like you're providing. Um, yeah, okay, that's a nice question over here. Okay, somebody's asked our company is okay. That's Robert. Hello, Robert. Thank you for the question. And okay, he is asking like. Their company is providing some okay, I don't know whether I can read his company's name, so I'll drop the company's name. So their company is providing this how do I put it, reconciliation services. So whether that will be covered under it. So Robert, I'd like to ask you like is it like you're receiving paper and you're working through paper and then replying on it, or is it through IT? So is it like uploading to a portal and then you're accessing it? It's all based on IT. Okay, it's all okay. So they have a centralized server where people upload their documentation and they do the reconciliation. So in that case, definitely it is coming under it. So any sort of services, you have to ask the question: is my customer's primary concern security, availability, and/or privacy? If yes, you get covered under SOC 2. Okay, Melinda, another question. Okay, she's asking who demands SOC 2 certification. So, okay, in other words, Melinda, you're asking like what is the drivers for SOC 2? Okay, it will be basically your clients who will be asking for it. Or you can, many companies that we have provided SOC 2, they are doing SOC 2 only because they want to remain competitive in the market, or they are like replying to a RFP and they want to appear like proactive companies and not just doing it as a knee-jerk measure. Even those companies are we have seen doing SOC 2. All right, so let's move ahead. There's a lot to cover. So in short, there are three: SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, and of course I can't get into it. So today we are here on SOC 2. Need to know the basics. I'm sure that there are many questions that you would be having as to what is the background of SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, how do they interconnect, and what it is all about and stuff. So what I would suggest, we've done an earlier webinar on SOC 2 and you can see the link on the screen. Better yet, go through our YouTube channel. That's a YouTube channel. You can subscribe to it. So what can happen is that you'll be getting a link. You'll be getting um, a glimpse of what videos have been uploaded, and you can see it, and you'll get a what to say, acknowledgement, or you'll be getting update as and when we upload a new video. So you can see even this video on SOC 2 also on our YouTube channel that we had done earlier webinar, that is SOC 2 New. That will give you some good background on the basics. I'm sorry, there are too many questions on the basics. When it started, what all is covered, all those things. I'm sorry. What I would suggest, guys, is that if you can please visit our YouTube channel and go through the video on SOC 2 and you. That was a recording of our earlier webinar. Then drop me a question towards the end. I'll be showing my email address also, so you can drop me a mail and I will respond to you. I promise you that. All right, going ahead. The trust principle, the main reason why we are meeting today. So defining the system, this is what we have to look at. So trust principle applies to what? That is the number one question that is always asked, that we always ask, and we need to know, that is, what is your system all about? Now understand. Okay, before I start, one more thing I'll tell you. That is the number one, oh, very painful bone of contention. That is, clients come and ask us that, okay, we only want to get certified on three trust principles: security, physical security, and confidentiality. We don't want the other two. Okay, so moment of enlightenment is that it's not really your choice. You can't define as to what is what all areas or what all trust principles you would want to get certified on. It is what you are coming under that gets certified under SOC 2. So it is you get a good consulting company, or sign up an auditor and take his advice onto what trust principles are actually applicable to your company. You can't say to an auditor that only we want these 2 or 3 trust principles and that's about it. I don't like privacy, so I don't want to do that. It's not really your choice. And how does the scoping done? How is it decided? What trust principles are applicable? It depends on the system. So system would be primarily the infrastructure, the physical and hardware components of a system. These all things are covered under the system part. The software that you're using, programs, operating systems, system application, utilities, everything. We are looking at the people, how many people, who's doing what, including the developers, operators, users, manager. All those comprise a part of the system. Procedures, again, the SOPs, the policies, procedures, all are covered under procedures. It could be the programmed and or manual procedures involved in the operation of a system. Then the next would be the data, that is the actual data that you are getting from the client or using of the client or supporting the client on. Okay, there is one question. Um, okay, he is saying there is Sri Krishna. Thank you, Sri Krishna, for the question. He is asking that they are not getting any data onto their premises, but they are remotely accessing some particular of the client's system to provide some support services. I cannot read out what support services, but they are providing some support services to the clients, but they are not getting any data to their premises. So would SOC 2 again applicable? Yes. See, what is happening is that you are accessing client sensitive infrastructure, client sensitive data, even though nothing is traveling to your place, but you are providing remote services to a client, you get covered under it. Okay, next is asking what all trust principles. Again, for that, I'll have to go through this webinar and you'll know what trust principles apply to you. Maybe we can discuss it later on offline if you wish. Okay, going ahead. The trust service principles, TSPs, as it is always referred to as, the TSP section 100 are the 5 attributes of a system. What is a system? We saw in the previous slide: the infrastructure, people, data, all those things comes under what is defined as a system, known as the principles. These are the principles. Security: the system is protected against unauthorized access, both physical and technical or logical. And there is an availability parameter that is available to the right people at the right time or as committed and agreed. We'll get into each of these things. Processing integrity, that is, your systems are processing the data in a complete, accurate, timely, and authorized manner. Confidentiality, again, who can access what, that the data is protected as committed or agreed. Now look at it. I would like to bring your attention to something. The keyword here is committed or agreed. That in availability and confidentiality, the keyword so here is committed or agreed. That is, what have you committed to your client is of paramount importance. Okay, so when we are starting off an assignment, we first say, show us your SLA that you signed with your clients. That becomes my number one step in which I can identify what all you committed to the client or agreed with the client, on the basis of which I can take it further as to what all trust principles you are covered under. The next would be confidentiality, again we've seen, and privacy. Like understand there is a big difference. Like I'm speaking at the Computer Society of India on the 22nd on GDPR. They're doing a full day GDPR fundamental course, and this is the second or third time they're doing it, and I'm the speaker, and all 3 times that is. And so over there also the basic we are covering is GDPR. So GDPR again covers privacy, and understand there is a huge difference between confidentiality and privacy. All right, so I can say that confidentiality is a part of privacy, a small part of privacy, but privacy doesn't mean confidentiality. We'll come to that. But we get into a lot of discussions with our clients where they are insisting that confidentiality includes privacy, which is not the case, especially in the Indian subcontinent, where the concept of privacy itself is an alien concept. So privacy in itself is frequently about to say misunderstood as confidentiality. So GAP is a Canadian set of principles, generally accepted privacy principles issued by the AICPA and CICA. That is what is covered under privacy. There is something called as a criteria components, the four policy components for each of the trust principles. One is the policies, that is for each of the trust principles. You need to have policies and procedures in place. Communication would be how it is being communicated to the responsible parties and or authorized users. You may have the best policies, procedures, and monitoring systems in place, but if you are not communicating it to the right people in the right mannerism, then it is all useless. So, and again, there has to be procedures, that is how in actuality the policies have to be rolled out. And of course, monitoring would be checking the effectiveness. How are you regularly checking the effectiveness of your policies and procedures? So monitoring, so these are the four aspects on which the trust principles have to be evaluated: policies, communication, procedures, and monitoring. So these apply to each of the control requirements that we'll be looking at. We'll go ahead to that. A closer look at each of the trust principles. The number one is the security principle. Now understand one thing: no company in its right frame of mind can say, we are not covered under the security principle. Like, we have got clients who have, who don't come under confidentiality or availability or privacy or processing integrity or the other four. But this is security principle forms a part of the common criteria, something called as a common criteria. So you can't say under any circumstance that I need to do SOC 2, but security principle doesn't apply to me. Then the whole case, the entire concept of SOC 2 is mooted for you. It's like useless. So you might as well not do it. Rather, I don't know how any auditor can even agree to sign up for you, because you have there is no point in doing SOC 2 then. So this is like base minimum required security principle, covered under common criteria. It refers to protection of the system from unauthorized logical and physical access. Now you might say that, your systems, there is a trust principle called as, physical access also, physical security. So in that case, why is security principle covering physical access? Well, under those, that's a good question. That is, availability is there and physical security is there. What is happening is that over here in the security principle, the mandatory control requirements would be there, and but in the additional, there will be additional controls in the physical security trust principle also. The next is limiting access to, okay, one sec, just to give you another look at it. Remember these things: security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. These are the 5 trust principles. I'm getting a lot of queries just on that. Okay. Okay, I skipped ahead a bit, sorry. Okay, so coming back over here, what you can see is that there will be the key elements of the protection includes permitting authorized users based on the relevant needs and preventing unauthorized access in all other instances. This has got hundreds, more than a couple of hundred control requirements, just the security principle. And just to give you a glimpse of it, this is what it looks like. So stay with me. Yes, I hope you can see this. Okay, so this is the trust principle. I've sanitized a report that we've done for one of the clients. So this is the security trust principles, and you can see it is all based on the COSO framework over here. And look at this each individual control requirements. So the first one for the control requirement from COSO principle, these are the security principle requirements, which includes even the top management requirements. Senior management will get into each of these things, and you can see this is the, what you can say, the criteria, and for each of the criterion there are numerous points of focus. Now this sheet I have not made. You can download it for free from the AICPA website. And you can see on the right hand side, as a consultant or as a company, you have to write down as to what are the risks associated with each of those control areas that you can see points of focus. As you can see, this is very preliminary that what you see over here, so don't make the mistake of copying it and using it, because this is very basic that I've sanitized for you. And then again, we write down the controls that the organization has in place for each of these control requirements, that is points of focus as you can call it, and what has been done about it. So what is the risk in case, what is the risk faced by this organization, AICPA as I thought of calling it, it's a sanitized name, and what are the controls that is there in place to combat that risk identified vis-a-vis the points of focus towards the organization. So coming back to our presentation, these are the common criteria for security. One is organization and management, communication and information. This is all common criteria. And you can see that again in the sheet over here, as you saw, like organization and management, communication and information, risk assessment, monitoring, and there are 9 such common criterion. As you can see, I'll show you the sheet again. Yes, there's the control. This is the management area. And as we go down, you can see communication and information. So all the criterion CC 2.1 and the points of focus concerned with that particular criterion, as we can see. And but again, as a word of advice to you after doing so many numerous assignments on SOC 2, is do not mistake this for a InfoSec assignment. That would be a huge mistake from you, a very big mistake. So do not make the mistake of confusing this with an InfoSec assignment. InfoSec is a part of it, and it is more of how InfoSec is managed within the organization. Just read it, and just read it, and you'll know what I mean. Look at this. Employee enforces accountability. I hope you can read it. I'll just zoom it a bit. One sec. I'm just seeing your screen. Yeah. I hope you can see it better. Yeah, one more. So as you can see over here, what do you see? Does a 27001 control framework or a PCI DSS control framework look like this? Look at this. The board of directors. This is based on the COSO framework. So it is IT based, but not like an InfoSec list of control requirements. The board of directors management order demonstrate all the directives, actions, behavior. Look at this. Establishes standards of conduct, adherence to standards of conduct. So it is basically how the IT organization or the organization is working is also of primary importance in SOC 2. So don't just look at it in a way that, okay, I have a firewall, I have an antivirus, I have an information security officer, so we are good. No, you don't. Even if you have the full-fledged 27,001 in place, I don't see you meeting more than 20 to 25% of the requirements. Remember that there are more than 480 requirements in SOC 2, and there is just on the max 114 requirements in 27,001. PCI DSS has 280. It's not about numbers, but I'm saying it's the vastness of scope. Oversight responsibility applies relevant. And look at this, it's all about board of directors, board of directors, board of directors, board of directors, board of directors. So it is all starts off with organization commitment, organization and management. Look at this. Management considers all structures of the entity, the management, the board of directors. Multiple structures support the achievement of objectives, identifying the objectives of the organization. Everything comes into place. So even how much thought the organization has put into in formulating their strategies, formulating their background, all holds focus over here. Defines or assigns limits, authorities and responsibilities. Again, the management, the board of directors, it's all at the top level. Now, as we move ahead, you can see it percolating down and down. See, communications and importance. Again, a communication channel within the organization, communication, how it is handled within the organization. And as you can see, it is very holistic in nature. Unless you are running your company properly, you will not be able to answer it. Look at the control requirements. Information systems capture, identifies information requirements, processes relevant data into information, manages quality throughout the processing. On what basis are you going to identify the risk? And what are the controls can you show for this? Just give it a thought. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to say. So communicates internal control information. Look at over here. Communicates to the board of directors, provides separate communication line, especially for whistleblower. This is, this comes up again and again. How does a company identify or encourage people within the organization in passing back information to it that somebody somewhere is misusing information or resources within the organization? And how does it protect the interest of those whistleblowers? Even incentivizing whistleblowers is something very important in SOC 2. Again, as I said, it's based on the COSO framework, so it is more on managemental angles only. So that was the second one. And look at the risk assessment again. So as I said, there are 9 such areas. This is the third one, that is the risk assessment is the third one. There are 9 such work areas. Each one you'll have to identify what are the risks, identify what controls you have in place, and then take it ahead. So it is very, very tedious going ahead with SOC 2. Now look at this, even the external financial reporting objectives. Look at it, the way it is written. Does anybody in his right frame of mind say that this is an information security exercise? But believe me when I say that there are n number of companies who take this as only and only like an information security exercise, and they lump it on the CISO and they lump it on the IT head, and that's the end of it. Look at the question that is written. How does the organization justify or do external financial reporting objectives, non-financial reporting objectives, how the frameworks are maintained, internal reporting objectives. Now, internal reporting is not just IT, not just InfoSec, remember. Adherence to external laws and regulations. Look at it this way. This is just the third one, and as we go ahead, there is a monitoring activities of those controls that has already been in place. So this is what it primarily looks like. Yeah. So these are the 9 work areas as we have seen so far. Okay, going ahead. So I can go through all, but then it will take you like a day or something to go through it. So on skipping it, you can download the sheet and go through it yourself. Or if you're not able to find the sheet, just drop me a mail and I will send it to you. There is an availability principle, that is a first principle that it starts off with. Again, refers to the accessibility of the systems, products, or services as advertised. Understand the keyword over here would be as advertised or committed by the contract, service level, all agreements. So whether you are coming under, whether you are coming under this or not, it is, the keyword would be this one: advertised or committed by contract, service level, or other agreements. It also relates to whether the system is accessible for processing, monitoring, and maintenance. So let's assume that you have not, what it really means is that let's assume that you have not really advertised that you'll be giving 99.999 uptime, or your SLA simply doesn't mention the uptime, but the services that you are providing to the clients needs it to be uptime in real time. Maybe like you're providing, maybe payment gateway services, or maybe you're providing like a co-location services. So in that case, you cannot say that I didn't mention anything to my client, so it's not applicable to me. So but because your system, whatever you're providing, needs that uptime, the auditor will assume that you need a higher uptime than you are actually portraying to the auditors. So there are many angles to it. As I said earlier, go in for a good consulting company, and of course we are there. Or you can also speak to a good auditor. We are also having our own auditing facilities with our own CPA based in the US. So we are there for you. Again, the availability principle does not in itself set a minimum acceptable performance level. Remember this. The minimum performance level is established through commitments made by mutual agreement, that is the contract or the SLA. It does not address system functionality, that is what sort of reports is being generated or how secure it is, or how smooth it will be, or what all requirements should be there. The availability principle is not about that. It's only about uh, meeting client uptime requirements for the client and or internal processing requirements. So key elements are identifying and preventing potential threats. So here you get all, using virus prevention, system backup, all those things, and maintaining a disaster recovery center. All that comes under the availability principle over here. Going ahead. Okay. The process, this is a bit tricky, and to be honest with you, in the entire sheet, this becomes one of the most painful areas. That's the processing integrity to be filled up. And so here it is basically about whatever you're committed to your clients, that this is the output that you'll be providing to the clients, whether your system is able to do it in a complete, accurate, and valid with proper timelines and authorization for system processing. So look at this. So it is basically the processing integrity of a platform. So let's assume if you're just providing co-location facilities or just a system for uploading of data like a Google Drive, or for maybe music sharing and stuff like that, or for an internal messenger system and stuff, and all those things. So probably this processing integrity trust principles might not be applicable to you. Otherwise, most of the time it is. So you might say that that you are not doing any processing yourself, nobody's touching the data. It doesn't matter whether you're touching the data or not. Even if you're not touching the data, the system that you're providing is processing data in an automated manner. So the processing integrity is all about confirming that the data that you're processing is complete, it is valid. So whatever they're doing is in accordance with business values and expectation. It is accurate, and timeliness that you are giving, that commitments are which are made to the client, that is being met by the processing system, or processing effectiveness of your platform or of your services. And finally, last but not the least, the authorization parameters. That is, all processing is done with required approvals and privileges. So that's what is processing integrity. Again, it's a bit painful to fill up, but that is something that you have to do. Now, understand this thing. This becomes like another one of my most discussed about topics, that is processing integrity versus data integrity. Now, understand. Um, Processing integrity does not automatically imply that all the information stored by the system is complete, accurate, current, and authorized. Okay, because understand, if a system processes inputs from sources outside the boundaries, the entity that is being audited, that is your organization, will be able to only apply a limited set of controls because it's getting the data inputs from outside. So if it is basically a principle of garbage in and garbage out. So if there could be various more service providers that is more providing more information to the company. So if you are a company, then you need to have some sort of a system in place to ensure that the data that is pumped into your organization by your outsourced vendors is correct. And if you are the client that is getting certified, so in that case, that wants your clients to get certified. So in that case, what controls you have in place to ensure that the data that you are sending to the client for processing, to your vendor for processing, is complete and accurate in all respects. Now look at this. For example, your system, you can have an application that checks whether the pin code is fine, the city name is proper, the country name is fine, the phone number is valid, and stuff like that. But what if the person in itself is not living in that location? Then what happens? It could be that the apartment address is wrong, the apartment number, apartment, maybe I'm staying in apartment number 101, but what is put into the system is 202. So in that case, has the system violated processing integrity? No. But is a data integrity objectives maintained? I wouldn't say that. but the processing integrity has been achieved. Sorry, the processing integrity has been achieved, but the data integrity is not there because the address is wrong. But you cannot say that because of this, your system's processing integrity is violated. The data integrity, so garbage in, garbage out is something that we have to keep in mind. Confidentiality, again, it is basically targeted at ensuring that the right people have the access to the right data at the right time, in the right mannerism with the right authorization. So again, the bottom line would be this thing: committed or agreed. That is the bottom line. So whatever commitments has been made to the client with regards to confidentiality has been taken care of. Okay, there's this Prashant Ambawale has given a nice question, that is there any checklist to perform a preparedness assessment internally before the external assessment? Yeah, the sheet that I showed, Prashant, that is what you can use to check for the internal preparedness. But again, if you look at the sheet over here, that I'll just quickly jump to, this you can download from your uh, AICPA website for free, or you can send me a mail. I'll send it to you in case you're not able to find it. So this is a preparedness checklist, but then the risk, this column in itself is not populated by AICPA, because the risk faced by the organization, your organization, for this particular control requirements or focus requirement, points of focus, will change from client to client. So you might get a framework for the assessment, but for the assessment you'll have to populate the risk and the control. So again, unless you're very good at the COSO framework or in doing such assessments, it will be very difficult to do it. So you'll get the boundaries for the assessment, but not really the entire plethora of information. So the risk assessment part is something that you have to do on your own. I hope that answers the question. Okay, proceeding further. Because see, understand, what is considered confidential can vary from business to business. So your SLAs, to understand, everything falls back on the SLA. So ensure that your contracts very clearly identifies what is meant by confidential information, who should be getting access to what, and what is the authorization levels required. So if there is data being transmitted, so what sort of encryption is required, how it will be stored, what encryption is there. So ensure that you have the right SLAs with your client, so that you are not caught on the back foot, or the client, or because the auditor may simply ask you for it. Okay, like let's assume that you are processing personally identifiable information, or you are processing card data, but your SLA nowhere mentions that this is a confidential information, or how it should be transmitted, how it should be stored, because maybe your client is too stupid. But if that's the case, the auditor will not say, okay, you have not committed anything to the client, so it is fine. That's not going to happen. The auditor will simply take it up that this is payment card information, or this is personally identifiable information. It's a privacy related PII, so it won't be confidentiality clauses will kick in with a higher level of requirement than what you have actually even agreed or committed to a client. So be wary on that. Okay, so just what you have put on paper doesn't really won't really go the extra mile for you. The privacy principle, wow. Again, if you look at the sheet over here, it's got okay, we'll go to the sheet later on. So it's got a huge number of requirements with regards to privacy, rights and obligations of individuals with respect to collection. This is the bottom line. Okay, quick show of hands. How many of you have actually had some information on GDPR? You can just tap on the hand. Yeah, okay. Any more? Okay. Okay, that's a good number. Thank you for that. Okay, that's like quite a few have already been through. What, 70% of the people I can see? Okay, okay, yeah, because that's really catching up nowadays for GDPR, knowledge on GDPR and stuff. So yes, so as you might have realized, the terms that is used over here: collection, use, retention, disclosure, and disposal of private personal information. Okay, one sec, there is another. Okay, Vivek, you've put in a question of about GDPR. Again, this is I am really running short of time. I can't really cover GDPR, but again, go back to our YouTube page, subscribe over there, and we have done a seminar on GDPR, webinar on GDPR, and again the next month, again my webinar is there on GDPR only. So you can go back to YouTube and go to the webinar. Drop me a line on there for you. Okay. So that was about it. So, okay, collection, use, and disclosure of and disposal of personal information. So it doesn't really mean that all just confidentiality. It's also that you have collected the data in a fair manner. Are the people aware of how the data was collected, for what it was collected, was it done in a fair manner? All those things are coming under it. We'll go into that. It contains a maximum number of controls is covered under GAP. So, okay, that is Zuckerberg for you. Okay, reporting on a company's compliance gap requires an evaluation of the following. See, choice and consent. Again, as you might recollect the terminologies associated with GDPR. So if you're coming on a GDPR, SOC 2 won't be that difficult for you. So collection, use, retention, disposal of privacy information. Now, okay, what is privacy information? If I look at GAP or even GDPR, it is not just my name, email address, telephone number, and stuff. It is also the location that I live. It is the demographics of the place, or even my IP address, photograph, and all those things gets covered under privacy. Okay, so don't just look at it. Okay, I'm not storing somebody's mobile number, so it doesn't really work that way. So choice and consent, collection, use, retention, and disposal, all those things are covered. It's extremely, extremely rigorous. I'll quickly jump into the standard and I'll show you. Yeah, look at this. Very similar language to GDPR. Provides notices given, privacy policy, covers entities, activities, clear and conspicuous language, communication data subjects, communicates consequences of denying, withdrawal of consent, implicit, explicit consent. Yeah. Collects from reliable sources. See, all those things, as you are very clear, as you can probably understand, I'm sure, that it's not coming under confidentiality. Confidentiality is an aspect of privacy, not the other way around. Many people, just to take the shortcut, or maybe because of sheerly not knowing, confuse privacy with confidentiality. All right, so moving ahead. So that's privacy for you. The security and privacy, disclosure to third parties, access control of the particular privacy information, monitoring and enforcement again. And this is a summation of the controls. There is a common criteria, as I mentioned, about using security as one of the TSP's trust principles. So availability has common criteria, many means security plus 3 more control areas, processing integrity, common criteria plus 5, confidentiality, common criteria plus 2, and look at this, privacy, common criteria plus 74 additional requirements. So privacy has the maximum impact in SOC 2, and no wonder companies don't want to do it. So okay, in summation, this is what it is. You can quickly go through it. As you can see, security as all encompassing, that's why I put it at the top, and what all it covers, and what is covered under the other 4 trust principles, you can see below. As you can see, so availability, what all is covered. So physical access, physical security is a part of availability, but it's just one area. So availability obviously contains a lot more than that. There's privacy, processing integrity, confidentiality, and security. So how long does it take? That's a typical question. Type 1 report is takes like 2 to 4 weeks. Design assessment 3 to 4 weeks. Reporting. This is just the audit part, okay, not the consulting. 7 to 10 weeks. If it's a type 2 report, anywhere from 10 to 14 weeks is something that it takes just the audit cycle. So it is not an ISO assignment that gets done in 3 days. It is 10 to 14 weeks, and this doesn't include consulting. So if you're looking at consulting, also factor in a few more months. So just to make it short, type 1 report is a report on control design. Sorry, that is control design. And type 2 report is more on control effectiveness for a minimum period of 6 months. So type 1 report is as on date, TOD, test on design, and type 2 report is a test of effectiveness, TOE. The cost for certification again depends on many things: size and complexity of your company, number of principals selected, means not selected by you, the right word should be applicable. I'll change this. The type of the report, the period covered by a report, the number of controls, and remember, this is an annual recurring report. Annual recurring, just to underline it for you, this is an annual recurring report. But if you're doing it for the first time, the upfront cost is very high, because the report writing it in the first year is, again, the cost is high. But as you continue doing it over the period of years, maybe the next year the money would be less. At least we charge less. So I don't know what others, but technically speaking, it should be charged less. So you can drop me a line on this. I guess this brings me to the end. Okay, types of reports: type 1 and type 2, as we saw earlier. Type 1 reports are a point in time. Type 2 reports is suitability of design and operating effectiveness of the controls. Typically 6 or 12 months evidence is minimum that you're required to show. So unless you're just starting service, don't go for SOC 2 type 1. For many companies, we are also a certifying body for SOC 2 and SOC 1 and SOC 3 also. So what we always suggest is, don't waste money on a SOC 2 type 1. Just take some time and do a SOC 2 type 2. It will be cheaper, because anyway, if you plan it well, the timeline would almost be the same. Okay, this brings me to my end, and this is our 15th webinar that just ended, and it's been an exciting journey. These are the topics, as you can see. Most of it was PCI DSS. Now we're shifting to other areas also. SOC 2 we did as 13th webinar. This is the 15th. GDPR we did the last month. That is in May. And coming up in July 12th, it is GDPR. And another question that we'll be covering, that is how to do a successful DPIA, data privacy impact assessment. So this is again a hotly debated topic online. Who should do it, how it should be done, what should be the preparedness, time, and what all is covered, scoping, everything. So it is going to be an extensive webinar next time. I hope I cover it in the 40-45 minutes that I have. Drop me a line on what you think about it, and or if you have something else on your mind, and we are there for you. If you have any questions, drop me, but no product based questions, because we are in a product agnostic in nature. So thank you very much. And as soon as this thing ends, you'll be getting a brief survey at the end of it for all the time that's been put up. I request you to just drop a one line on what do you think about it. Were you happy? Did achieve your objectives? Was it worth the time? Do you have any other subjects that can be taken up? Drop me a line, and I'll be more than very happy for you to do this. This is a YouTube page. The subscriptions have gone up, so okay, the number of subscribers is much more now. But do subscribe and go through what we have to give you. And that's our Facebook page. Do like it, follow it, and we are there we keep posting a lot of stuff, not just about us, but what is happening in the InfoSec world. So you'll also be in touch on that. Don't worry, don't spam at all. This is a LinkedIn page, and you're more than welcome to be there. I look forward to seeing you on our page. And these are my coordinates. Feel free to drop me a line, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions or take anything else up with you. So thank you again. Thank you for your time and being such a great audience. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you. Bye-bye.